This is really going to be about the Tata journey and not necessarily so much about environmental sustainability, though to the best of my ability later on, I'm quite happy to take any questions that you might have on that subject as well. So good evening once again. Delighted to be here. It's an honor for me to be at this campus. What I would really like to do today is actually to share some of the key elements in the Tata Group's own journey of the past 147 years. And these may offer some lessons, particularly to some of our younger colleagues in this room, on what you might do to build a sustainable and successful global enterprise. And I think India needs many more of these going forward in the years to come. The Tata Group itself will be celebrating its 150th anniversary in 2018. Now, for every decade since the time of our creation, we have actually featured amongst the top 10 corporates in India. And today we are the largest corporate in this country. Just to put some numbers for fiscal 2015, we had a group turnover of a little over $108 billion. We had a market capitalization of $134 billion at the end of March. Aggregate brand valuation of a little over $23 billion. And we employ over 600,000 people across the globe, which would make us probably the 8th largest employer in the globe. Now, to my mind, the most important factor which governs organizational sustainability is a well-defined sense of mission and purpose, a clear sense of who we are and why we exist. This defines the organizational culture and greatly influences the people practices of the organization, which in turn influences the behavior of colleagues and the performance of the organization. Now, in the case of the Tata Group, our commitment to giving back to society really underlines our mission and purpose. And I'm going to illustrate this in a bit more detail. So it started with our founder, Jamsetji Tata, whose business philosophy is really reflected in that one statement on the slide. In a free enterprise, the community is not just another stakeholder in business, but is in fact the very purpose of its existence. So he felt corporates have a responsibility to concern themselves with the quality of life of the communities they serve. If the community is not successful, if the customers, the suppliers, the investors, the lenders in that community are not successful, it's hardly likely that the corporate that seeks to serve that community is even going to survive. Now, this inclusive vision of community and the responsibility of corporates found its realization amongst many other manifestations in the way in which the city of Jamshedpur itself was built. Now, that city is actually named after Jamsetji Tata. And here at the site of what became Asia's first integrated steel plant, the builders of Tata Steel lived up to Jamsetji's exhortation to be sure to lay wide streets planted with shady trees, every other of a quick growing variety, be sure that there is plenty of space for lawns and gardens, reserve large areas for football, hockey and parks. And in the context of all the debate in this country on tolerance, look at that last statement, earmark areas for Hindu temples, Mohammedan mosques and Christian churches. So this notion of corporate responsibility soon morphed in Jamsetji's next generation, his heirs, his two sons, into what we now regard as the trusteeship model of ownership. Now, both of Jamsetji's sons, Sir Dorab Tata and Sir Ratan Tata, bequeathed their holdings in Tatas to charities. Now, this conscious action was inspired by the founder's own view of the role that business should play in the community. And that gifting of their ownership to charities has now actually firmly embedded the notion of giving back to society into the Tata corporate structure and indeed our DNA. So the charities established by Jamsetji's two sons are now India's largest charities. Conservatively, they are sitting on assets that would be worth in excess of $45 billion. Every year, they're giving away in excess of $100 million towards a number of charitable causes, and that number keeps increasing with time. So Tatas are consequently a rather unusual capitalist organization in the sense that we are owned at the level of the parent investment holding company, principally by charities, whose only mandate is to give back to society. Incidentally, on this slide, you also see a photo of Sir Dorab Tata and his wife. And it's interesting that his wife died of leukemia in the UK. And in her memory, Sir Dorab Tata established the Lady Tata Memorial Trust, which even today, 82 years after it was created in 1932, is contributing several £100,000 every year towards cancer research. So I think this notion of giving back to society was something that was firmly embedded in the thought process of the heirs of Jamsetji Tata. So what I'm going to now do is play you a brief video in which Mr. Ratan Tata, in conversation with Fareed Zakaria, actually reflects on what the influence of these charities has been on the way we think about our business.
The Tata Sons, the holding company that governs the entire Tata Group, is 2/3 owned by charitable trusts. Am I right? Which means that 2/3 of the income that comes from this enormous industrial and services empire goes to charity.
Yes.
Does that change the way in which, does it change your perspective on how and why you're running it?
Yes, it has. First of all, it runs counter to the general perception that Tatas are a family company and that the proceeds of these industrial operations go to the Tata family. It does not. The family owns about 2% collectively of Tata Sons. And the 65% that goes to charity has always been seen as a noble usage of the wealth we have created from our companies. It goes back into education, medical, alleviation of poverty or rural development. So in a manner of speaking, it has always been our driving force that what we're doing is really for plowing it back to the people of India.
So this notion of trusteeship was also very well articulated by another Tata chairman, J.R.D. Tata, who said the wealth gathered by Jamsetji Tata and his sons in half a century of industrial pioneering is held in trust for the people and used exclusively for their benefit. The cycle is thus complete. What came from the people has gone back to the people many times over. Indeed, in his turn, in an India that was enthralled to socialism in the 1970s, when it wasn't fashionable for corporates to be talking about corporate responsibility, or people didn't at least believe them if they did, J.R.D. Tata actually pushed through amendments in the Articles of Association of all the Tata companies to incorporate the requirement that each Tata company shall be mindful of its social and moral responsibilities to consumers, employees, shareholders, society, and the local community. Fast forward to today, our group's mission has been re-articulated recently by our current chairman, Cyrus Mistry, as follows: to improve the quality of life of the communities we serve globally through long-term stakeholder value creation based on leadership with trust. And in our vision for the year 2025, Chairman Mistry has laid out the ambitious goal that by 2025, a quarter of the world's population will experience the Tata commitment to improving the quality of life of customers and communities. And as a result of doing that, Tata, we hope, will feature amongst the 25 most admired corporate and employer brands globally, with a market capitalization comparable to the 25 most valuable corporations in the world. So at that point, I'd like to play a short video which articulates how we read this particular vision.
Today, the world is split into quarters. Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. With success measured in months, minutes, milliseconds. As Tata people, when we think about the next quarter, we see it a little differently. That's because of who we are. Because of Jamsetji, Dorabji, Norodji, JRD, and Ratan Tata. Because of Tata people, the Tata community, the Tata values. All of these things make us different. It's a distinctiveness spelled out in our mission to improve the quality of life of the communities we serve globally through long-term stakeholder value creation based on leadership with trust. For customers, communities, employees, partners, and shareholders. So when we, as the people of Tata, talk about the next quarter, we can't just mean Q3 or Q4. We have to mean more and see a much bigger picture. Let's look ahead to 2025. There will be over 8 billion people on our planet. Half of us will be in Asia. Almost 2/3 of us will live in cities. The global middle class will be billions strong. The world in 2025 will be gloriously, wonderfully different. But we will still share the same ambitions, the same hopes, the same dreams. Technology to inspire us. Transport that drives opportunity. A better quality of life for our children. A sustainable future for all. All of this demands that we raise our expectations and lift our ambitions to meet and match the immense opportunities that the future presents. The vision is clear. By 2025, Tata will touch the lives of 1/4 of the world. That's over 2 billion people served by Tata companies, Tata people, and Tata products. We, the people of Tata, are on a journey that will take us to 1/4 of all humanity. That's what the next quarter should mean to us.
So for us at Tata, the next quarter is not just about the next 3 months. It's as much about the next 25 years. So I hope you can see that there is a continuity in business philosophy from the time of our founder to our current period when we think about our mission and what is our ambition going forward. Now, of course, we recognize that we need, in an increasingly volatile and uncertain world, to offer our people the tools to be able to take forward this mission and this purpose. So the principal tools that we use at Tata's are two. The first is the Tata Code of Conduct, and the second is the Tata Business Excellence Model. The Code of Conduct is the tool that we use to guide our people towards ethical conduct and for our companies to conduct themselves in a values-driven way. First crafted in 1998 under the visionary leadership of Ratan Tata, the Tata Code of Conduct reinforces the value system which has endured since our group was founded. Now, to remain contemporary with changing times, we do periodically refresh the Code of Conduct. And just this year, in fact, after a gap of 7 years, we've actually refreshed the code once again. And we've made changes in both structure and content. The current version, in terms of structure, is now organized by stakeholder groups. So we have sections of the code devoted to our employees, to customers, to communities in the environment, to our relations with government, to value chain partners, and so on. In terms of content, we've tried to make the code more accessible, easily understandable by a younger, largely younger workforce that we have today, and many illustrations of ethical dilemmas that have been now embedded in the Code of Conduct and how those might be resolved. Now, of course, the credibility of an organization demands that if a code is violated, then penal actions must follow. And these must be widely communicated. You can't brush them under the carpet and hide as if nothing happened. And in Tata's as well, I think we've encountered exactly such situations where we've been very clear how we need to deal with it. And I think the case of Tata Finance in particular is one which has been talked about a lot in the past. So just to talk about this case a little bit, for a group that is known for its trustworthiness, I think questions that were raised in the early 2000s about the integrity of the senior leadership of this particular company was, to put it mildly, quite shocking. In brief, what had happened was you had a company that had big ambitions. It was operating in several areas of financial services. Along came a letter from a whistleblower, who till this day, by the way, has not been identified, saying that there had been a huge amount of money deployed in the stock market in speculative transactions that did not actually have the board's endorsement. And more of concern was the fact that many of these transactions had been undertaken to increase the personal wealth of certain managers. So they were not transactions that the company had endorsed. Several hundred crores were in fact then found to have been lost through misdirected investments through subsidiaries in the stock markets. And as I said, many transactions are found to have been done to secure personal profits for some managers. The company is facing a major hole in its balance sheet and P&L statement. The Tata leadership, led by Ratan Tata, reacted swiftly to the situation. The first thing they did was to ensure that every public depositor was guaranteed that their capital would be protected. The holding companies, Tata Sons and Tata Industries, publicly guaranteed that all investors would get their money back in full and could withdraw these prematurely if they so wished. Also, in those troubled days, Mr. Tata would insist that action be taken against all those whose guilt was established, howsoever influential they might be seen to be, and that we would make full disclosures to all the regulatory authorities, so the police, the Securities Exchange Board, the Reserve Bank of India. And that's exactly what we did. So by standing by our investors, ensuring that we were transparent in all our disclosures, not hiding anything, and making it very public, including within our group, that we would take serious action. We actually sent the managing director of that company to jail for a few years. I think the group emerged from that situation with its trust intact, with that relationship with its stakeholders intact. In fact, its brand equity and reputation actually were enhanced as a result of the very transparent actions that the leadership took. The second tool I mentioned was the Tata Business Excellence model. Now, this is a model that is patterned on the Malcolm Baldrige Awards framework from the United States, and it benchmarks our companies with their global peers. It allows for sharing of best practices across our group companies and has in fact resulted in improved competitiveness of the Tata companies. This year we're actually celebrating the completion of 20 years of adoption of the Tata Business Excellence model. So embedded in this model is our commitment towards continuous improvement of our processes across all the critical business areas, from leadership to strategy to customer care to human resource management. So with these tools, now we want to ensure that internally all our people are consistently being sensitized to our mission and our purpose. And so we undertake a number of ongoing initiatives and programs. Many of them are quite well known, but I thought today I'd illustrate 4 that have been launched really in the last year and a half or so. The first of these is our volunteering initiative, which we call Tata Engage. The idea here is to allow Tata colleagues to experience personally the joy of giving back to society, which is our group's higher purpose. So we started with one flavor of volunteering, the episodic Tata Volunteering Weeks, and now we've added other flavors, including pro bono support for nonprofits. And some of these formats we've also extended to the families of our colleagues and also to retired Tata employees. We've been, I think, quite amazed by the enthusiasm with which our colleagues have taken up volunteering. Already over 70,000 Tata colleagues have signed up as volunteers to participate in Tata Engage. They've contributed last year over 400,000 volunteering hours, and our target now is to take that up to 1 million volunteering hours per year. Now, besides the objective with which we launched this program to connect our people with community, we also find, and this is something that academic research also is proving, that there are huge spin-off benefits of volunteering, including your ability to attract and retain talent, especially where millennials are concerned, and as a leadership development device for your people. The second initiative we've launched in recent times is Tata Strive, our skills development program. The effort here is to train young people for employment, entrepreneurship, and community enterprise. As all of you are aware, in India particularly, with over 12 million young people entering the workforce every year, many of them unskilled or poorly skilled for the jobs that are available, it's critical that corporate India steps up to the challenge of imparting to these young people the right skills. So through Tata Strive, we're trying to build a network of skill development centers, which include our captive skill development centers in our companies, skill development facilities created by the government infrastructure, the ITI system, and those developed by nonprofits. We hope over a period of time to build the capacity to train millions of young people in this country every year. The third initiative I'd like to mention is one which is actually becoming very relevant to our promotion of products and services to our customers. This is the focus on what is now described as cause-based marketing. As someone put it, for customers, it's increasingly not just about what you buy, but what you buy into. If businesses are willing to clarify the higher purpose they serve, customers are also willing to reward them with both mind share and share of wallet. So many Tata Group companies have now launched cause-based marketing campaigns, and the best example of this perhaps has been our campaign to promote the power of 49. Now this campaign was a partnership between the Tata Group and one of our group companies, Tata Global Beverages, based on their Jago Ray platform. And the intention was to encourage Indian women to cast independent and informed votes at the time of the last general election for candidates who were committed to resolving issues that were important to the women. The campaign leveraged on-ground activities like awareness workshops, voter registration drives. We co-opted a whole bunch of Tata Group employees as evangelists. We used SMS and online media to draw up a list of women's issues. We managed to secure 1.2 million responses across the country, which I understand is the largest such aggregation of women's issues in this country. We put it all together into a 10-point political manifesto, which was then shared with all the national political parties on the eve of the elections, and then debated with them on primetime national television with our media partner was CNN IBN. The campaign, I think, succeeded certainly in achieving its business goals, including inbuilt messaging on the Tata Global Beverages products, but I think it also created a very strong emotional connect with the consumer. So I'm going to play a short video which talks about the Power of 49 campaign and its impact a little bit more.
One woman is raped every 21 minutes in India. One woman is kidnapped every 14 minutes. Much of this happens in broad daylight.
In India, the way women are treated has gone from bad to worse. Tata Tea decided to work towards the much-needed cause of female empowerment, encouraging Indian women to make use of their right to vote in the 2014 general elections. We launched the Power of 49 with the ambition of getting the 49% female population of India, millions of women, to place an informed vote. We started gently. Film and TV shape Indian society, so we integrated empowerment stories into India's most popular daytime soaps. Then we leveraged the combined influence of Bollywood's most high-profile stars to make the Power of 49 unavoidably public.
Here on CNN IBN, the Power of 49.
We convinced Bollywood's most popular celebrity, Shah Rukh Khan, to credit his female co-stars above him in any future movies. Then we secured Tata Tea as sponsors of the Indian International Film Awards. We prioritized female category awards above the men's and integrated the Power of 49 into the host's script.
She has the power of 49.
Via telephone and online debates and celebrity Google Hangouts, we brought 1.2 million real women together to build the world's first ever crowdsourced political manifesto. But we didn't stop there. We gave every woman a voice through the Push the Pin campaign, enabling them to flag issues instantly wherever they occurred. That drove a critical political debate.
Could politicians ignore us then? Our interests and our needs? No.
Stirring up issues with media and women's issue experts. The results were staggering.
In its own small way, I think this campaign did actually make a good contribution. And the fact is that the last general election saw the largest percentage of women in India ever voting in the general elections. Just for your interest, that number grew from 60% in the prior election to 66% in 2014, marginally short of the voting percentage for men. The fourth initiative I'd like to outline relates to the kind of recognition that we provide our colleagues, really designed to encourage innovation and pioneering in our group. So we understand that change is actually a constant in the new world that we live in, and we are committed to embracing new ideas and constantly innovating and pioneering. We pioneered steel in India, we pioneered hydropower in India, we pioneered the IT services business model through TCS, we pioneered the world's lowest cost and most affordable passenger car, the Nano. We pioneered global submarine cable connectivity so that today 1 in 4 global internet searches takes place on the Tata Communications optic fiber network, and the list goes on. So to encourage this kind of pioneering and innovation, recognizing that it entails effort and risk and frequent disappointment before success is achieved, one of the important award categories at our annual Innovations Conclave is the one which showcases risk-taking and perseverance. We call it Dare to Try. It's, in a manner of speaking, an award for failure. And we believe that is critical to encourage so that a culture of innovation is sustained across the organization. So let me speak briefly about the 2 examples reflected on this slide, which were the winners of the Dare to Try category last year. These were attempts by teams from Tata Technologies and Tata Consultancy Services. The team from Tata Technologies tried to design an efficient and flexible seating system for passenger vehicles, but ultimately this could not be deployed because it was too expensive. The team from TCS created an advanced analytics solution that helps to identify fraud in insurance, property, and casualty claims. Now, that solution failed because insurers typically involve niche vendors with strong brand recognition in fraud investigation. So in fact, that product has not been given up, but now TCS is actually looking to partner with an industry recognized fraud investigations leader so it can be actually taken to market. So these 4 initiatives, which are ongoing current initiatives that I outlined, are really examples of the way in which at the Tata Group we try and ensure that our sense of mission and purpose constantly feeds into the way we engage with a variety of stakeholders. Equally critical, it informs and guides our human relations and the way in which we engage with our people. And that inclusiveness dates back to a number of pioneering initiatives that the Tata Group undertook from its inception. When there were no regulations on these matters in the 19th century, Jamsetji Tata was creating creches and dispensaries for his employees, instituted a pension and gratuity scheme, a workers' provident fund scheme, and at Tata Steel around 100 years back, a number of far-sighted industrial relations practices were instituted, including the 8-hour workday, free medical aid for employees, leave with pay, maternity benefits. All these became laws in India only several decades later. So today we continue to invest in creating an organization which all our people, regardless of gender, nationality, income, or background, feel valued and included. On gender, it's worth remembering that going back to our founder, Jamsetji Tata, who instituted the Jamsetji Tata Endowment Scholarships to send talented young Indians to study abroad, the very first scholarship was given to an Indian woman, Freni Kama. So we recognize, as our chairman Cyrus Mistry has said, that when women are insufficiently represented in a workforce, we lose out on 50% of the talent pool. And in an environment where human capital makes all the difference between success and failure, it's a massive loss which both countries and companies can ill afford. So today at Tata's, we've committed that we will double the number of women in our workforce by 2020, so in 5 years' time. That means adding at least another 115,000 women to the Tata workforce. We've also committed that by 2020, we'll create at least 1,000 women CEOs, CXOs, and leaders across our businesses. That means tripling the number that we currently have. Our diversity initiatives also include our focus on affirmative action. So in the Indian context, this is really the programs in support of the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe communities. And there we have a program which we call the 4 E's, the focus on education, entrepreneurship, employability, and employment. As a global organization, we are also committed to increasing the representation of different nationalities in the workforce and at the level of senior leadership. So we are very respectful of local cultures. In each of the markets that we operate in, we want to be seen as a local player. So for instance, in Korea, when we acquired Daewoo's commercial vehicle business some years back, we insisted on retaining the entire Korean leadership, including the then Korean CEO. Similarly, in Britain, when we've acquired famous brands like JLR or Tetley, we want these entities to continue to be viewed as British entities and these brands to be viewed as quintessential British brands. So ladies and gentlemen, the alignment of mission and purpose at Tata's, located within our commitment to improving the quality of life of the communities we serve, creates in our people a sense of higher purpose. And I'd like to end with 2 illustrations of this. Recently, when Prime Minister Modi appealed to all Indian citizens who could afford to do so, to start buying LPG at market prices and forego the subsidy, we became the first large corporate to extend our public support for the campaign. And thousands of Tata colleagues immediately signed for the Give It Up campaign. But from this modest example, let me take you to a more amazing example of higher purpose. When conviction and belief are high, they can catalyze extraordinary achievements. They can motivate extraordinary acts of heroism and courage. And that sense of higher purpose was vividly brought home to all of us in the Tata Group by the actions of our colleagues at the Taj during the terror attacks of 26/11 in 2008. There's a rather moving video from a TEDx talk given on this subject by Professor Rohit Deshpande of the Harvard Business School. And I'd like to play you a brief clip from his video.
So picture what's happening inside that hotel. There are 500 guests who are registered at that hotel this night of 26th November. There are an additional 600 or so guests who are in various restaurants, attending various banquets and functions. There are about 600 or so staff members on duty that night. Young people, many of them very young, 20, 30-year-old. Some of them, these staff members had only been working for a few years at this hotel. Many of them fathers and mothers, the sole breadwinners in their families with children at home waiting for them. One of the things, we don't know a lot about the detail about what happened there, but one of the things we do know is that all 600 of these employees knew all the back routes. They knew the exits, they knew the entrances, they knew the hallways, the kitchen galleys. In other words, they knew how to get out and how to get out fast. All the research we have in psychology would tell us that the natural human instinct at a time of terror like this is to flee. So think about it, what you would do. So when I teach this case study at Harvard, I ask my students, I say, how many of these employees do you think fled, and how many of them do you think stayed? And they'll hazard guesses, and the maximum they say that would stay would be maybe a quarter, 150 or so. But that's the maximum. Everybody who can run away will run away. Well, the truth of the matter is that nobody ran away. They all stayed. In fact, some of them not only stayed, they helped guests out and came back in to help more guests. It's an amazing story.
They risked their lives in just making sure the guests were safe.
So I'd like to re-emphasize the importance of defining a clear mission and purpose. The authenticity with which organizations define their reason for existence determines how the employees within the organization align towards the organizational mission. And I personally believe that corporates need to clearly identify their core purpose, who they are and what they stand for, and then all else follows. So let me end now with a quote from Mahatma Gandhi, who said, "Find purpose, and the means will follow." So for Tatas, our higher purpose is to improve the quality of life of the communities we serve. That is what has led us to embrace a number of initiatives around collaboration with various stakeholder groups. That is what has earned us the trust of these stakeholder groups. That is what has ensured the sustenance of this 147-year-old organization. You've all been a very patient audience. I understand we may have time for a few questions and answers now. So many thanks once again for having me here and giving me this opportunity to tell the Tata story. Thank you.